Welcome back to Takeout. The judge overseeing the deportation case of Kilmar Abrego Garcia has denied the Justice Department's request to delay proceedings because of the government shutdown. Abrego Garcia was brought back to the U.S. in June, you remember that, to face federal criminal charges after being mistakenly deported to a prison in El Salvador. That happened back in March. Much controversy ensued over both of those events. The Trump administration is now seeking to deport Kilmar Abrego Garcia to a different country. Camilo Montoya-Galvez following this for us. Camilo, always great to have you. So this case has sort of been in suspended animation for a while. Just catch the audience up on sort of what's gone on for the last month and what happened today that is potentially significant.
Sure, Major. Just to level set for our audience, there are two major legal battles ongoing in the U.S. over the fate of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, as you underscored, is that Salvadorian man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador, despite a judge's ruling from the first Trump administration that protected him from being deported there. He's facing federal criminal charges related to human smuggling allegations that he denies, we should add, in Tennessee. But the judge in that case, Major, has allowed him to await the criminal trial that is set to start next year outside of pretrial detention. However, Abrego Garcia, because he entered the U.S. unlawfully and without permission back in 2011 initially as a teenager, is also facing a civil immigration deportation proceeding before the Justice Department. And that case is ongoing, and it is set to be appealed before the Board of Immigration Appeals at the Justice Department in the coming weeks and months. In the meantime, a federal judge in Maryland is trying to discern and find out from the Justice Department, Major, whether the Trump administration, in fact, wants to remove this man to the tiny African country of Eswatini in southern Africa while this case plays out and before the criminal trial actually starts. The Trump administration has communicated to Abrego Garcia's lawyers that it does indeed intend to send this man to this tiny African kingdom, but during this hearing, the judge expressed real concerns, Major, and frustrations about their inability to answer basic questions about these plans and how quickly they could send this man to Africa in the coming days and weeks. And so this case will continue to be litigated, and there's now a hearing on Friday as to the next steps in this case.
And the word vindictive came up in the proceedings today, if I had that correct, Camilo. That is to say, those representing the interests of Kilmar Abrego Garcia thought within the administration's deportation efforts there was something vindictive or punitive.
That is absolutely correct, Major. Lawyers for Abrego Garcia have alleged over the past few months that the only reason the Justice Department filed criminal charges against their clients is because they had to admit that they made a legal mistake in deporting him to El Salvador, and they only were able to really discover this derogatory information after that deportation, and that the prosecution, they allege, is vindictive and a form of punishment and retaliation against their client. A judge in Tennessee, a federal judge, has allowed that vindictive allegation to be explored through a discovery process that will continue in the ensuing weeks and months, Major.
Catching us up on all the relevant details, as he always does, Camilo Montoya-Galvez. Thank you so very much.